What makes Yuja Wang one of the most in-demand and recognizable pianists on the planet? It's not just her mind-blowing technique or daring repertoire. It's not just her bold stage presence and fashion choices. It's that she's mastered the entire career system, the same system that drives every major classical star to the top. And today I want to walk you through that system so that you can apply it to your career as a classical musician. I'm Jonathan Eifert, founder of Gold Sound Media. I'm trained as a classical pianist, but over the past 15 years, I've worked as a brand strategist in classical music, helping artists and organizations build their visibility in the marketplace. I've helped artists win Grammy Awards and nominations, such as Jessie Montgomery and the Miró Quartet. I've helped launch Yoon Lim to global fame through my work at the Cliburn. And I've helped secure top-level performance opportunities for artists over the years by helping them master what I call the gold framework. Gain access to gatekeepers, own your brand identity, leverage your wins, and drive demand and sustain momentum. Today, I'm breaking down exactly how Yuja Wang has used these same principles to build one of the most successful global classical careers of our time. Whether you're an early career musician or mid-career trying to level up, these lessons apply directly to your own artistic journey. So let's dive in and explore how Yuja Wang built her brand by using what I call the gold framework. The first step, how Yuja built her brand, is she gained access to gatekeepers. And I'm kind of blocking this out from 1998 to 2007. Yuja's early journey wasn't just about practicing harder, it was about getting the right people in her corner at the right time. So let me just walk you through some of these highlights during this time period, or roughly thereabouts. In 1988, she was 11 years old. She played at the Ettlingen International Piano Competition, giving her early European visibility. By her early teens, she left China for Canada's Mount Royal Conservatory, and by 2002, at 15, and that's such a young age, she was accepted into the Curtis Institute and studied under Gary Grafman, one of the most connected mentors, obviously, in classical piano. And then in 2005, she stepped in last minute for Radu Lupu with the Ottawa Orchestra performing Beethoven's Piano Concerto No. 4, which obviously is a pivotal moment early on for her. Then in 2007, her global breakthrough came when she substituted for Martha Argerich with the Boston Symphony Orchestra under Charles Dutoit, clearly a major step forward, and that really became her launch pad. She also had early media buzz from legacy media that helped position her effectively. Then in 2009, she signed with Deutsche Grammophon, which placed her firmly inside the elite global classical music ecosystem. So what's the key takeaway here under this part of the framework from her early days? She used access as the foundation. Had it not been for the right doors opening, obviously, even with her immense talent, she would have struggled to break through. But through this access of meeting the right people along the way, over these early years in the 2000s, she was able to kind of build that network that propelled her to the stardom, the actual global stardom that came much later. Obviously, in the 2000s, yes, these are amazing moments, but it was really only until later on in the 2010s that she became the star that she's known as today. The second part in this gold framework is own your brand identity. And Yuja did this, let's just say 2009 to 2012. I'm guesstimating here. Once Yuja got through the door, she immediately crafted a brand that stood out from every other pianist on the scene. So starting with 2009 Deutsche Grammophon debut album, she showcased her daring, technically demanding repertoire, Ligeti, Prokofiev, Rachmaninoff, signaling she wasn't playing it safe. So that's really key here. So she really came out of the gates with her debut album, really making a huge statement and owning what she stands for, which was this daring repertoire. And then around 2010, 2011, this is when the fashion really kicked in. So obviously everyone knows her as wearing these mini dresses, and this fashion-forward stage wear really became her signature, and it began making headlines, breaking the mold of the traditionally conservative classical look, as we all know how it used to be. The famous orange dress at the Hollywood Bowl became part of her public identity. And then obviously ever since kind of that breakout moment period in her development when she was owning really her brand identity early on, it became that signature look then over the years as she's built her career into the superstardom level. In interviews across this period, she developed a witty and confident, sometimes provocative persona, ensuring she was always remembered not just for her playing, but for her magnetic personality. So the personality really came through when she was giving her interviews. It was not something that she was shying away from. And that magneticism really helped also propel her forward with this owning her brand identity. And then her social, obviously. I mean, she really has an incredible social media presence, and that personality comes through, and she's consistent with that personality. The album covers became visually consistent as well. There wasn't just this generic talented pianist image, but a cohesive and memorable artistic identity. Don't be afraid to go for it. I mean, I think that's one thing that I just love about Yuja. She truly went for it. I mean, when you have a personality, as you should, especially in the public eye, lean into that. So the key takeaway here, in addition to what I just mentioned here, is that you have to own your brand. You have to own your artistic identity, not just from a repertoire standpoint, but from a personality standpoint. When you're owning that brand identity and you're integrating it through your platforms and the media that you are interviewing with or the presenters that you're interacting with, etc., that brand identity is going to really stand out. That personality of your brand identity is really going to stand out. So then it gets us to the third point in this gold framework, and that's leverage your wins. So roughly 2012 to 2016, Yuja didn't just stack up performances, she turned each success into leverage for bigger opportunities. This is the thing that I know it may seem obvious, but not everyone does that. You might have a really incredible performance, but then you lose sight of using that as leverage to get other bigger and better opportunities, or even just stay on that level. So after her BBC Proms debut, which is obviously a milestone for any pianist or artist out there, she booked major halls and worked with major orchestras as well. And then obviously in 2010, kind of backtracking just slightly for kind of awards, she won the Avery Fisher Career Grant. She won the Echo Classic Young Artist of the Year, and they were tools also that her team used to amplify her market value. So it wasn't just from a standpoint of major debuts in major halls, but it's also using the leverage of the awards and grants. This, obviously Avery Fisher Career Grant is a huge milestone as well. So using this as momentum to push the artist forward. She forged elite collaborations with top conductors like Claudio Abbado, Charles Dutoit, positioning her as a marquee soloist. So again, when she was able to gain enough access early on, she used that momentum, she leveraged it, as well as embracing her own identity that we just discussed, and parlayed that to working with even more famous conductors that really positioned her going forward, especially in the 2010s, as that marquee soloist. That it wasn't just a one-off. It wasn't just like she had replaced Martha Argerich early on and then that was it. She actually kept leveraging to push her career forward. And then with DG, Deutsche Grammophon, her recordings during this time period didn't just sit on shelves, they became media talking points, marketing content, and bargaining chips for future contracts and projects. So when she got that incredible debut project with Deutsche Grammophon, she was able to leverage that into all of these other opportunities that came afterwards. But it's not just about that, it's the marketing content that you can use from the album project. It's the kind of behind closed doors as a bargaining chip. When you have that sort of leverage that you're a DG recording artist and you had a successful album launch, etc., you can use those things as leverage to gain bigger contracts with music presenters. So what is the key takeaway? Leverage is about turning momentum into acceleration. Small wins are stepping stones, not finish lines. I really encourage you to think about that it's not just an end game where you have one win and you're done and call it a day. Obviously, you have to keep leveraging your wins to achieve more. So no finish lines. Unfortunately, it's just a never-ending process. But always remember, you have to keep using any wins, whether they're small, medium, large, to accelerate and to gain traction, gain momentum for your career. So the fourth and final part of this gold framework is driving demand. And for Yuja Wang's case, I'm saying 2016 to 2025 to the kind of the current day. So give or take about a decade then. Once she reached this superstardom level of fame in the 2010s, then over the past decade, she was essentially able to just continuously drive demand and stay on top even a decade now later. And that's obviously a feat for anyone, but it speaks to how she was able to really use the access that she initially had, the owned brand identity that was highly unique and marketable, and as well as leveraging her wins, whatever size that they ended up being, leveraging all of that stuff to ultimately drive demand, so that at the pinnacle of the mid-2010s until the current day, she was able to continue and sustain that momentum. By 2016, she was touring regularly across continents, so the US festivals, European orchestras, major events like BBC Proms. She maintained, I think that's a key thing here, broad media coverage, appearing in mainstream press, New Yorker, Euronews, etc., and engaging fans through social media. So obviously her social really blew up. This was the age of Instagram coming of age and really pushing out accounts. So she blew up there. And then she had all the virality. Obviously, this was the era when YouTube really took off in the 2010s. And so she had the viral performance clips and then leveraged all of that, again, kind of going back to this leverage to drive demand, cross-platform digital content. So, taking stuff that happens on one platform and pushing it to other platforms to keep driving that demand, even digitally. She kept her programming fresh with new chamber collaborations, unexpected repertoire, and crossover projects that engage both loyal fans and new audiences. And then in 2023, obviously, more recently, she won her first Grammy Award for Best Classical Instrumental Solo in that category, a new peak even 2 decades into her career. So also very interesting to note that regardless of all of her accomplishments and her superstardom, the Grammy literally just came fairly recently in 2023. So key takeaway with all of this, you don't wait for demand to happen. You actively cultivate it through innovation, consistency, and reinvention. Let's break this down a little bit more. The gold framework. So I walked you through what Yuja did and walking you through her timeline, essentially, of her career and framing it with what I like to call the gold framework because I think it accurately depicts what classical superstars have done. No, they did not go out and use that terminology. It's something that I came up with. But I am looking at what these top celebrity artists are doing, and that's essentially what you can distill it down to. So that's what I want to help you do with your own career and how you think about gaining momentum and breaking into higher levels of your performance career. To break this down, what this looks like with this framework is it's best depicted as a flywheel. So there are 4 components, as I walked you through earlier: gain, own, leverage, and drive. And they don't work in a straight line, although it does map that way for Yuja Wang. You can kind of think about this as a linear bit, but it does work in different ways. You can actually, while I started her mapping of her career with gain access, and then we went to own, etc., and then, around the flywheel like this, it actually doesn't have to be that way. Some artists have a major win at a competition, and so that kind of starts them here at this leverage point. And then from there, they're like, oh, actually, I need to kind of come up with all of my assets in my website and my social media profile because now people want to pay attention to me. So then they kind of go from the leverage, using that into, quickly into own brand identity. And then they quickly want to gain access then to gatekeepers to propel them forward and get more booked, but leveraging all along the competition win. And then obviously ending in drive to drive their momentum forward from all the leverage that they built through the competition, gaining more presenters to take note of them and book them, etc. So it can work in different ways, but I just wanted to go over that other artists, though, say if you are mid-career and you're stuck, oftentimes you do have all of these things already, but some of these are not working in calibration yet. So you probably already have an owned identity, and you probably already have access to gatekeepers, but what you're probably lacking at mid-career is leverage. And you really need to work on how to build that leverage into driving momentum. That's kind of where I see a lot of the problems break down with artists when they come to work with me. But something to keep in mind is that gold forms a career flywheel. The more you work each piece of the flywheel, the more momentum you build. So it's not just about having one of these components working or, working on one at a time. You really have to have all four calibrated, working simultaneously to drive you around the flywheel to gain that momentum and push you forward to higher levels of your career. So let's take the next step. I'm assuming if you made it this far in the video, you are looking for answers to solve problems in your career. So I've created a free masterclass designed specifically for musicians. And here are a few things that you'll learn: how to gain access to gatekeepers, how to own your brand identity, how to leverage your wins, and how to drive demand and momentum. So I hope you check it out. I spent a lot of time working on this. It's over an hour long, actually, compiling a lot of expert advice from the industry at large and through my own experience. And I think it will really be valuable to help you propel your career forward. So link in the description, check it out, and I hope you find great value in it. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next week.